This is Automotive Advertising with your hosts Jim Flint and Janine Loving-Drake.
Hi, everyone. Jim Flint here today with Janine Loving-Drake.
Hello.
We're happy to have you here on the Automotive Advertising Podcast. And today we're going to talk about digital retailing and its relationship to the 4 Ps of marketing. For our car guys, what we're going to try to do is give some practical application to this digital retailing. I think it's creating a lot of blood pressure medication sales.
Yeah.
Right? Blood pressure's going up.
Blood pressure's going up a little bit, yes. And you know, this is what I like about this piece is it's kind of going, we're kicking it old school with the 4 Ps, right?
Yeah, bring it back to the basics.
That's been around for a while. And then we're bringing it into the equation, something that's so new, it's not really a thing yet, I think.
There's no there?
Nah, there's not really a there, but there's so much buzz about it that I think, you know, it needs to be talked about. And I think what's interesting is we have to remember our roots in marketing and take a look at this piece. And it's really important to see.
It's the buzzword of the year.
It's the buzzword of the year.
No doubt.
How we can make it work and maybe some ways that we can make it fail miserably. So I do want to say real quick that I think that you put out a lot of very great content. And one of the things that you have done very well is put together some people's opinions on this new digital retailing space. Kind of, some of them are kind of how-tos, some of them are like consumer-centric, but it's 10 pieces of information. So it says the top 10 digital retailing content pieces for automotive executives. It is on our website, localsearchgroup.com, or you can just Google search local search group top 10 digital retailing content, and it comes right up, I think, number 1 on a Google search. But it's a lot of great information. I highly advise people to take a look at all of these pieces. I think that my 2 favorite, if I were someone
you get to vote,
taking a vote on what you should read, I would pick one of the pieces from either Bill Wittenmeyer or Joe Webb, somebody's kind of opinion type piece. And then I really liked the last one on the consumer reactions to digital retailing, because it does give a lot of insight as to, you know, it's important. I mean, it came up, right? Because Amazon, hello.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
I mean, flashing signs right now. Spoiler alert. The deal with the big takeaway, and I think what makes that particular piece so compelling, the online piece, is everybody who is listening is probably thinking about this kind of thing in front of a big 52-inch monitor, if not a 32-inch, if not a 20-inch monitor. Mm-hmm. But they start talking about what does digital retailing look like on a smartphone.
Yeah.
Game changer. So you got to elevate the thinking a little bit. And part of that elevation of the thinking is, I like where we're going here. We're going to kick it old school.
Yeah.
We're going to go back in time, because I'm going to hit the 4 Ps for the people out there that may not have their phone handy to be able to Google search exactly what they are, but it's price, promotion, product, and place.
Great.
And so we know that that's what makes up a good marketing campaign or advertising campaign. Those are the fundamentals. But Janine, we took a look at some advertising that's out there. Are we finding that to be a part of what dealers are telling consumers about digital retailing?
Yeah, so I think that the biggest problem is confusion on the dealer side is relating to confusion on the consumer side. And it's very clear in the marketing pieces that I looked at that even the dealer, I don't think, is really 100% convinced. I mean, you can almost feel it in the pieces that, you know, they're not really sure what it is that they're selling, right?
No, yeah. I mean, the ones I'm looking at, they're kind of selling a process.
Yeah.
Halfway process, kind of half in, half out.
Right.
It's not a good look.
It's not a good look. So I think if I can say anything to any dealer that's thinking about doing digital retailing is you're either all in, right? Like do it, invest the money, put the processes in place, get a good plan and execute, or don't do it, right? Like because dipping your toes in the water, it's not going to work. So and especially when you're paying the money, right, for production, right, for commercial spots, whether you're going on cable, you're going on OTT, you're using YouTube as a medium and source, right, for video content, your video content to be consumed by consumers, you're investing a lot of money. So it's got to be correct, right? You have to have the price, the promo, the product, and the place, or it gets very confusing for the consumers. And at that point, you've just lost them. And
yeah, you're not kidding. And I mean, we have the great retailers right now are moving forward in this space, right? Mm-hmm. These are the guys and the gals that figured out the internet before the rest of the dealerships turned their internet department into an internet dealership, right? Because everybody shops online. And I think because of the Amazoning of society, right, we're going to get closer and closer, and we're going to have consumers more often than not start to expect that the car could literally be delivered to the home, or consumer could come pick it up. And we're watching, like, Walmart does this now, right? And the grocery stores are doing this now.
Oh, yes.
The curbside service and those kind of things. And so as that becomes a more frequent part of somebody's life, the automotive expectations are going to be elevated.
Right.
And what I find is, like, one of the great taglines that I saw in one of the groups was, click it, pick it, get it quick, right? Something like that. It was catchy.
Okay.
But again, that's more of the process.
Right.
So in other videos, I've seen them even be real animated about, and they're kind of explainer videos, but here are the 6 steps to digital retailing at my dealership. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to have the consumers fit into this element. I'm going to tell you, in my personal professional opinion, having been through all the research about what is being said about digital retailing, even reading one of the good studies out there is the number 3 ranker. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's from MIT. And it's a little academic, but if you listen to what they tell you, you got to leave some of the decision making up to the consumer, mm-hmm. right? Let them get involved with your dealership. And I think that's where I would help our dealer clients and other people in the industry to take that blood pressure medication down just a little bit.
Yeah.
Is to say what we're really trying to do is get them shop online.
Right.
Right? Digital retailing doesn't mean an ultimate commitment to buying.
No.
Right?
Right.
But you tell me, do you shop online, and do you find, do you put stuff in your cart?
I do shop online.
Yeah.
Right. I do. I actually do a lot of online shopping. And Amazon is a frequent deliverer to my front door.
Okay.
But I think what we're forgetting in the car business is we're selling cars. People are buying, the cars are the stars. You always say that,
I do.
right?
I like that.
Right?
I like
the
it.
car's the star. So I think as people are moving into this digital retailing space, people want convenience. But I don't think that I think the digital, when you say digital retailing and you take it to too many levels and steps for the consumer, then it just becomes a confusion when really ultimately they want to buy a car, right?
They do.
Like you show them how, right?
You want to be a facilitator to that.
Be a yes.
Be a catalyst. Because here's where it's going. If you don't allow them to calculate their price online, mm-hmm. there's so many price calculators out there. I mean, you just Google it and you go to the place where that's available. So you're basically not willing to compete. And so that's where this whole tipping point is going to occur. Mm-hmm. Do we want to be more in control of the conversation? Are we willing to open up a little bit more operationally and give consumers that ability to look at the pricing? And I'm not talking about giving away invoice or triple net this or any of those kind of dynamics. And really, let's talk about this for a second, because there's a piece of this puzzle with F&I. I truly believe that you can do all the digital retailing that you want online without even touching the F&I piece of the puzzle. Mm-hmm. I believe that's entirely possible, because I can do all the pricing things about the car that I need to do. Because if I can't do it at the dealer website, guess where I'm going? I'm Googling it and going somewhere else.
Right. There's always a way to find something online. The consumer's always going to find something online. So is somebody going to go to your website to digitally shop because it's there? Or are they going to do it because you've got hundreds of used vehicles in stock? Because you've got the largest selection of Ford F-150 trucks? That's what gets the consumer excited, right? The digital retailing is kind of like that side piece where it's not, I feel like people are trying to make it the star, and it's not.
No, and I think it's in a vendor space where, and again, we're not an internet service provider. We do provide digital sales operations techniques and tactics to help our clients out execute the competition. But when you're an internet service provider, and there's been a lot of tremendous downward pressure on websites in terms of there's not a lot more you can do on the websites than what's been going on in the last 10 years. In fact, there's almost been, I say this very respectfully, a dumbing down of the websites because it's all about speed, which you can listen more about in episode 1 of our automotive advertising podcast. But it's how fast does the website load?
Right.
If it doesn't load in 3 seconds, they're out. So we've got to create this digital retailing calculator experience all before we lose their mind to whatever other thing it is on an app that's loading quickly that can take that attention.
Right. And a lot of those so talk to me a little bit about that, because I know we don't do websites, but once you start adding some of those layers, what does that do to website load time and speed time?
Well,
have they figured that out yet?
Who's that? The internet service providers?
Yeah.
I think there's a new wave that's coming through, but there was the wave that came up after the automotive depression, which was otherwise the economic recession that happened kind of 2008, 2009. And those website providers kind of helped create the category, and they were purchased by publicly traded companies. Okay. And so since then, they haven't necessarily gone back and reestablished the infrastructure and the architecture. So they've been scaffolding on and adding different gadgets and adding different widgets. And so a lot of places you'll see digital retailing be a bolt-on. But it's the companies now that are looking at building this from a smartphone up kind of approach and keeping the calculator inclusive to the process that are delivering better products to our dealer clients. And I don't want to name names in the process, but certainly staying close to that can help you in a game where speed matters, right? And that's been one of the themes of this podcast is just those little elements. And guys know with net to sales, and gals know too, net to sales, the percentages are so very small. It's those little extra moments, that little extra execution that makes all the difference.
Right, absolutely. And I can't help but go back to your nephew who you just asked who's going to Ole Miss, right? Just started as a freshman.
In Oxford.
And you asked him what was more important to him, his first car or his first phone. And it was his first phone because it could do so many other things, right?
And his car only did one thing.
So
it's definitely phone. And I don't know if you see it, but when I drive out of my neighborhood, and even you can see that there might be parents at the bus stop with the children. And I find it interesting because the parents are socializing. They're talking, and they may have their coffee, and it's in the morning, and you'll see the kids, and for the most part, they've either got the headphones in or listening to the music that's coming from their phone, or they've got their heads down playing a video game or texting somebody or communicating somehow, some way.
Right.
And so that generational dynamic is certainly reshaping the way current consumers, because my nephew's 18, but that whole thing didn't start recently. I mean, we're finding that advent of the phone, those consumers are in their mid-30s, so they definitely have buying power now.
Right.
And they've grown up with Amazon. Do you think they want the same experience that baby boomers or Gen X had?
No, it's a little different perception there, right? Yeah, definitely. So I think that the thing to focus on really the end of the day is we're still selling cars, right? And I think it's something that you definitely want to have some deep thought about before you just kind of throw something out there and see if it sticks, type of thing. And this is a great place on our website to take a look at some other people's opinions and some ways that some people are using digital retailing successfully. But
and I'll elaborate on that. If you're one of those great dealers that enjoyed that internet experience and kind of carving out that new path, it's there for you right now. But you're right, you do have to do some deep thinking and establish the process. And then, believe it or not, figure out how to not market the process. You have to give the consumer the keys to the process and let them kind of drive where they want to go and get where they need to go on their own terms. But for those that are like, well, I don't want to go full into that deep thinking. I don't want to mess with all the elements, but I do want shoppers. Start thinking of digital retailing as like digital calculator. Do you really want a digital calculator on your website? Yes, you do. And you probably have it in some gadgety form. But if we look at the last 10 years and we know that vehicle display pages are indicative of customers that will ultimately buy, I would say that a great predictor, a highly correlated element is going to be people that are calculating payments online.
Right.
So make your site stickier.
Yes.
Right? And make it fast.
Yes.
And with those two components, you're going to have more opportunities to do business. And probably the other key to that is because people do rely on the wisdom of the masses. Having a good reputation goes a long way in today's society. So make sure you're managing that online reputation as well.
Yes. Good words. And to your point, they'll bounce out and get a calculator somewhere else. And that's the last thing you want them to do is bounce off of your site.
No, and I've seen people actually have created calculators online and they'll share them with people. And if you Google stuff like this, you'll see it's out there. So whether we want it to be part of where things are headed or not, I think as the current baby boomer generation moves out of the car buying public and this new generation of millennials moves in, it's going to happen. And I really want the industry to be there for those clients and consumers. You know, one other thing, and I don't know how it looks or works in Chicago, but as an automotive retailer, have you noticed what Carvana's doing?
Yes.
Now, here's the thing. The business model may or may not work because
Right.
they haven't made money yet.
Right.
But they've got a lot of capital.
But they're selling cars.
They are.
Yes.
And they're growing market. And what they're growing is a new way of doing business. And it's really, if you look at it online, a marketing concept that they've brought to automotive operations. And I know when I first looked at it, I thought they'll never make it. There's no way. I'm now kind of leaning back and going, ooh, right? Because the consumer demand for it, not unlike my nephew,
Right.
is they'd rather have a really fancy phone and maybe a less impressive used car. And they're willing to exchange that because remember, the car only does one thing.
The car only does one thing.
Oh, wow. Hard for me to grasp, but as a marketer, you got to listen to the people who are giving you the feedback that help you get better.
Yeah.
And generationally, he's helping me see things that I might not have otherwise seen.
Right.
And that's what we do. We try to help our clients see things that they might not otherwise see. And we want to,
Absolutely.
we know that it's a now part of a now business, so we don't want to get too far out in front. We don't want to be 2 years out in front of this.
Yeah.
But this one's coming. It's coming soon to a theater near you.
Sometimes it's better to be the settler than the pioneer.
Yeah, you're not kidding. But with that, we'll close out. How's that for today?
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. I'm speaking with Janine Loving-Drake. I'm Jim Flint. We appreciate you listening to our conversation about digital retailing and the 4 Ps and how you can bring it together at your automotive dealership.
You've been listening to Automotive Advertising with your hosts Jim Flint and Janine Loving-Drake. Thanks for listening.